Yo, what's up guys? It's Overjust over here, coming at you with some more StarCraft II Legacy of the Void. Now, patch 5.12 has just gone live, and with it, we have seen some changes to a couple of units, like the Mothership, the Cyclone, and the Baneling. But today we are going to be focusing mostly on the changes that the Cyclone has made to the meta of TVT, TVP, and TVZ. Now,
Must build more supply depots.
Vindicta has some really cool voice. So we are going to be looking at this from this video in the Terran's perspective, because we have seen a ton of videos from people such as Pig. I've seen players such as Mana talk about it. How can Protoss defend against cyclones? And they recommend you go for, well, Pig recommends you go for Robo first. Mana says Robo first sucks against Hellions and Widow Mines, which is true, so I typically recommend that you go for Twilight first into Robo. That just all around seems like the best answer against cyclones, but also having upgrades and going for a composition that'll be a decent choice, at least, against Widow Mines and Hellions. And so I want to take the time to really look at this from the Terran's perspective. How can Terran combat cyclones? In this game that we're watching here, before we get to the build order guide, you're going to see our red Terran player practice go for a ton of cyclones. He even proxied a factory on Vindicta's side of the map.
Upgraded.
And because of that, because of the cyclone changes, because of the players going for a ton of cyclones in just about every game, there has been a need for me, personally, to change the way that I open my games. And that is because Terran players are going absolutely buck wild with cyclones. So, I found a couple of ways that cyclones can be countered as Terran. And one of these ways is doing a build very similar that you'd see in the previous patch, where you just go for a barracks, your double gas, you get your factory, you get your starport, you start going for ravens still, you get your hellions, some cyclones yourself even, and then you just transition into the mid game. Because by that point, you may not have as many cyclones as your opponent, but you definitely should have enough army to combat any cyclones, still push out of your natural and take your third base, stabilize, and transition into the mid game.
Optics online. Let's go
now,
kill something.
The second part that I want to cover is how do we capitalize on players that are being just overall terrified of cyclones. If you have a Protoss hunkering down on two bases, what are you as Terran supposed to do? Well, you could just get ahead. You could just take a base. And since Pig released his video about going Robo first against cyclones, I have seen quite a few Protoss. I am on the NA server. I have seen quite a few Protoss actually go Robo first. And I have a sneaky little build that I like to do against Protoss now, especially on large maps such as Site Delta and Radcusset.
Systems go.
And I would absolutely love to share these with you.
Optics online.
So we're gonna finish out this game from Vindicta's point of view. We got a little while left. Vindicta checking out that main base with that Reaper, continually building SCVs, getting some more cyclones going.
Taking some fire here. SCV ready. SCV.
And honestly, this has been the state of TVT ever since the PTR, actually, before the patch even dropped. And if you look at it, both players are just making a ton of cyclones. Vindicta has 6 cyclones, making 4 at a time. We've got Practice. I believe he had 3 or 4 cyclones. He's making them 2 at a time. Practice taps out. That was GG. Now, Vindicta was going to go for a ton of cyclones anyway. That's what it looked like. He was just going to mass up cyclones, probably try to push across the map and kill him. I don't know Vindicta. I had never talked to him about it. I don't know if this was a response that he made, but it seemed like that's what he was going to do anyway. Now, against the amount of cyclones that Vindicta's opponent had, you could have seen Vindicta go for a second factory. I believe he already had 2 factories. If we go back and look, we could have seen one of these factories get a tech lab, him go into siege tanks, transition into a third base. It is 5 minutes, so if he was going to decide to get a third base, try to transition in this game, his transition might have been a little bit late. Now, granted, he had the Reaper inside of his opponent's main base. He scouted, didn't see a natural for his opponent on location or anywhere within the main base. So Vindicta's lack of third base doesn't necessarily mean that he's playing an inefficient style and he doesn't know what he's doing and he's just building cyclones because he wants to build cyclones because of the new patch. That could extremely likely actually be a calculated decision where he's like, I'm a base ahead and I don't need to build any more bases, risk putting myself in a position where my opponent might have an army large enough to come across the map and deal either game evening damage or game ending damage to me. So, cyclones it was. But what about tanks? Tanks are so good against cyclones. Okay, so in this game here, we have a TVT that I played against an AI. This game, I went for kind of what I was talking about in the intro of this video, where I went for the 2 factories. I went for a 1-1-1. I got my second command center. I got 2 factories. One of them had a tech lab on it, and the other had a reactor on it. And my defense on this map started on the other side of the map. Now, it's a concept that I am kind of playing with. I'm not sure if it is a phrase that will stick or if it even truly makes sense or not. But the idea is that cyclones are a unit that does the best whenever you are kiting with them. And so, if you are using cyclones defensively against an opponent that is making a ground army, then it would be beneficial to start fighting your opponent on their side of the map, and then kite them all the way back to your side of the map. Now, we see a little bit of bad SCV control right there. That could definitely be worked on. But this build is just it's just supply depot, barracks, you get your double gas out, then I'm gonna go for my factory, and gonna go for my expansion, get my starport, my second factory out. So there we see the factory drop. And after the factory drops is when I'm going to consider taking my natural. I believe that is the SCV that is building the supply depot that I have, going to mine a mineral, and then also going to do some patrolling at the command center on-site location. The Reaper is going to go across the map just to scout.
SCV ready. SCV ready.
And there we see it. The command center drops. Now, the factory is going to switch with the barracks for that reactor.
Add-on complete.
Getting the reactor on that factory is going to allow you to get out some Hellions, Cyclones, Widow Mines, but in this game, we are going to go for, you guessed it, the Cyclone. And we are also going to be getting our second factory out. We are going to start our second factory shortly after the starport. And then we are going to get the 2 cyclones out.
Add-on complete.
Yeah. There we go. Second cyclone.
SCV ready.
So I got a tech lab on the barracks, and I started a marine. Now, if the marine was able to finish before the starport finishes, great. I would have a marine. But I canceled the marine because I am prioritizing the Raven before the marine. I am getting the interference matrix upgrade, and I will continue to produce from my factory. Now, I should get a factory, not a factory, I should be getting a tech lab on the factory that I have just finished producing, and I should be going for Hellions out of my first factory, but you are not seeing Hellions because, in fact, I am a bad player. Instead, I went for some more Cyclones because I needed to spend some of that money. But if I had started some Hellions, they would be out already. Those Cyclones would not have had to
Command
been
center
started.
upgrade complete.
Got the tech lab on the barracks, switched over for the factory, and now I'm going to get out some siege tanks. And that is basically the soul of this build. You want to get your barracks, factory, starport, factory. Get tech lab on the starport as quickly as possible. Get a reactor on the factory as quickly as possible. You want to go for Cyclones. You want to get Ravens, get that interference matrix upgrade. And you can kind of see it here. I have 2 Cyclones on this side of the map. You can bring a Raven. You can get all of the Cyclones onto this side of the map. Right here is a great place. Just a great spot to camp out. I can see the mouth of their natural in its entirety. They cannot move out of their natural in any direction without me seeing. And should they decide to move out, whether that be on 1 or 2 bases, to come across the map and touch me on my side, I have all of this room to kite back before I'm in a position where I need to defend for my life. Now, to touch bases with Terran versus Zerg and Terran versus Protoss, I've noticed a lot of Protosses have been going for robotics facilities first after they get the cybernetics core. And this might be in relation to Pig's video, where he was playing against Estrella, who was going for Cyclones, and Pig played Robo first. He got his shield battery at 330 and got a ton of immortals out and really just kind of steamrolled Estrella's Cyclone opener. Now, against Protoss players that are going for Robo first, I think this build is extremely strong because Robo first gives you a lot of value, but you just don't get a ton of units out very quickly. You have really strong units, but if your opponent is going for something like this, where I'm going for a command center first, into barracks, into 3rd command center, into 2 more barracks, you just kind of have too much stuff by the time Protoss gets to your side of the map, especially on a map as large as this. This map has, you can fact check this. It has a 43-second rush distance. This is the largest map in the current map pool, and I have played this build 100% of my games on this map against Protoss and against Zerg, and I have won maybe 70% of those games. It has been quite the win rate for me on this map, just because I'm hammering out that economy early. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with Cyclones, from my perspective at least, but I think that a build like this has been made more viable because players now are experiencing a little bit of fear, and they are trying their best to just stay at home and survive because Cyclones keep hitting them. And so especially if you're playing in a series of games against somebody and you're throwing in cyclone build after cyclone build, and then you hit them with one of these, you have the potential to get so far ahead so quickly. And that's the beauty of
Command
this
center
build.
upgrade complete.
I am going to give props to the person who originally created this build, because this is not my build. This is actually a build that I have stolen from a little guy. You might not have ever heard of him. He goes by the name of Flash. Straight up one of the best StarCraft II players to have ever played the game. And easily the best StarCraft Brood War player to have ever touched StarCraft II as well. He used to go for a build where he would go CC first, go for a barracks, and then go for the third CC, and then get 2 engineering bays. But as you can see in this build, I have cut the engineering bays, and instead I have opted to go for a 3 racks opening with my quick 3cc, and that's simply to be safe. The 2 engineering bay opening that Flash was doing worked very well against Zerg, but this is a build that I would like to use a little bit more than just one map in one matchup. So with the 3 racks opening, you can play a little bit safer against Protoss. You get your upgrades slightly later than Flash's original build. However, with that 3rd command center already finished, and with 3 barracks, there's nothing stopping me from getting a factory starport, 2 engineering bays, and then going for upgrades right after. So this build gets you into the mid game with a strong army, potential upgrades. I believe the only downside to it is that you just get air units out late. You get your metavacs out late. You'll if you want to go for any liberators, anything like that, that'll be out a little bit later. But I'd say that that's a small price to pay for early game safety. Harass potential, definitely a push potential. If your opponent decides to do something stupid, especially in the metal leagues, even though you're on 3 command centers, you're also building 3 barracks. You can just as easily push across the map and just kill them if they're doing something that is outrageous. These are 2 builds. One is primarily a Terran versus Terran build. The other is primarily a Terran versus Zerg, Terran versus Protoss mashup build. And you can do any of these builds on any maps. I mean, if you would like to try this Red Hussite build against Terran, be my guest. I have not done it. I have not even tried 3 racks against Terran, but now I am kind of curious. So, yeah, you go do that. Go play some Terran versus Terran. Do this 3cc 3 racks opening, and let me know how it goes in the comments below. And if you like this video, and you found either of these build orders helpful, if you find any of these openings to be something that you might play yourself, make sure you leave a like on this video. Comment, let me know how it goes for you. Let me know if you play the TVT with this opener. Let me know how that goes for you as well. These things all need some more testing. These are not definitive builds in the professional scene, but these are stable builds that have given me some success, and I would like to share them with you.